This time I want to talk about the first grammar of the Greek language, but also in general in Europe. This was written by a scholar named Dionysius Thrax, Dionysius Thrax. He was actually not from Thrace, as the name indicates, but probably from Alexandria. We don't know much about him, nor it is something I want to look into particularly today. I want to look more at the text. First of all, have in mind that the text is very short. You can read it in probably, certainly less than an hour. Probably you can read it in 20-30 minutes. And it can be found, the Greek text can be found in Wikipedia. I believe there must be English versions, English translations elsewhere. So, I already mentioned one reason this text is so important, because it's the first one, and being the first one, it sort of set the parameters for our way of thinking on this subject. It was also a model that other people imitated. But there are more things to say about it. First of all, it's a product of Alexandria, and if you think about other products of Alexandrian thought, for instance, the Elements of Euclid, it shares some characteristics with it. For one thing, it places a lot of attention to definition. Okay. And for another thing, it is very systematic. These are characteristics of Alexandrian scholarship which can be attributed to Aristotelian thought, this attention to definition, systemization, the systematic approach to knowledge, and also the effort to cover, let's say, the totality of human knowledge. For instance, you see here how varied their interests were. They included geography, they included analysis of text and speech, they included geometry. Also in Alexandria they studied, of course, human anatomy. So a very, very wide and very systematic analysis. Now, as we said before, the text is very short and it goes straight to the point. One of the most interesting, I think, for a modern reader, part of the text is the classification of the parts of speech. Now, depending on the part of the world from where you come from, you might or might not have studied these parts of speech at school. In Greece, we certainly still study language in such a fashion. So the parts of speech, according to Dionysius, were noun, verb, participle, metochi. This makes a lot more sense in ancient Greek than I suppose makes in English. To have participle as a separate part of speech, article, of course, pronoun, preposition, adverb, and conjunction. So it's very modern. You can take this and copy-paste it in a modern Greek grammar book, and it still stands perfectly well. I wanted to look at two more parts of the text. One is his definition of the word, okay. So in Greek, in ancient Greek, his definition is λέξεις εστί μέρος ελάχιστον του κατασύνταξιν λόγου. And this would translate, it's not easy to translate this in English, but it would be: a word is the smallest, the tiniest part of a speech that has been structured, that is structured. So a word is the smallest part of structured speech. And whether one agrees or disagrees with this definition, the elegance is really here, that it does recognize word as being the smallest unit of meaningful structure speech. Another one that is very interesting because it's very short, but it's very complete. It approaches the topic from many different and interesting angles. It would be his definition of a noun. Now, for the word noun, he uses the ancient word, which is όνομα, not ουσιαστικό, which is what we say in modern Greek. So, όνομα εστί μέρος λόγου πτωτικών, σώμα ή πράγμα σημαίνων, σώμα μεν ιον λίθος, πράγμα δε ιον παιδεία, κοινώστε και ιδίως λεγόμενον, κοινός μεν ιον άνθρωπος ύπος, ιδίως δε ιον Σοκράτης. Παρέπεται δε το ονόματι 5, γέννη, είδη, σχήματα, αριθμοί, πτώσεις. A noun is a declinable part of speech, signifying a body or a thing. Now, he uses the word thing here in a very broad sense. A body such as stone, so physical object. A stone, a wall, a paper, a piece of paper, a book. This kind of thing would be a noun as a body. And then he says, a thing such as education, so it can be an abstract. So it's either something physical or something abstract. And it is spoken of both generally and specifically. This is very nice. I mean, he's talking about proper names here, right? Generally, such as man or horse, so indicating a species. Specifically, such as Socrates, that would be a proper name. So specifically would be like Socrates, Mary, Jane, whatever. 5 properties accompany the noun: gender, species, forms, numbers, and cases. So let's have a look at this. So gender is straightforward. Ancient Greek has 3 genders: masculine, feminine, neuter. Species is what we talked about before, the proper nouns, proper names or common nouns such as horse or pig or dog or whatever. When he says schemata, forms, it means whether in its appearance the word is simple or compound. So a simple word like man, or a compound word like Superman, or whatever, composed of 2 different words. Number is straightforward, is singular or plural. In ancient Greek, in very early forms of ancient Greek, you also had a dual number. And then the cases are, they have the 5 cases we know from ancient Greek. So it's really how can I say, the totality he offers in a single paragraph, offering even examples, is really very impressive, I think. So let's look a bit at the influence. Before we look at the influence, there is also in the text you will see he discusses a bit the phonetics. It's kind of interesting. He was well aware of the pronunciation of ancient Greek as a, let's say, a prosodic language. Basically what the stresses stand for people who know ancient Greek. He's talking there about what the stresses and stand for, and also for longer short syllables, which of course in Alexander they were very aware of because they studied a lot of poetry, and for poetry knowing these things is very important. Although I think already at their times this kind of pronunciation was waning. In terms of now of his influence, of course he was a big influence, being the very first one obviously. So the grammar of Donatus Ars Grammatica was influenced by him, and then in the Byzantine Empire there were very extensive commentaries on his work, which suggest it was studied a lot. And well, Wikipedia suggests also that some people in the Arab world also studied his work. So overall, a very influential work. Now, there are some lines of, let's say, very predictable lines of attack against against this text. So what are they? One is, and it's very common with many Greek writers, that maybe he never existed. You have these things, maybe it's a later compilation. You will hear these things about Euclid, about Homer. I mean, if you are to believe these things, basically, no Greek writer ever existed. But maybe, I don't know, maybe this one, there are some legit reasons not to believe in it, but overall, I think it's something that's very fashionable to do these days, and they do it pretty much for every writer whenever they have the opportunity to do so. And the other is to try to poke holes, very often claiming that, he put the Greek language at the center. What else was he supposed to do? Greek was his language. It was supposed to be grammar of the Greek language. Later, people took this grammar to be a grammar of languages in general. And I can see a problem with that, sure. But that's not his fault by any stretch. Yeah. So overall, my impression of the text is very positive. It's a very short and to the point text. I had a very big influence on not only on the way we study language, but the way we understand language and what we consider to be correct and good language. So that's it for me today.